This is The Foundation. Stories from people who build things, products, services, businesses, how they started, what they're doing now, and where they're going.
Ben, good morning. How are you today?
Good. Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. Before we started recording, you and I had a conversation about sort of freezing up in front of the camera right now versus having a more easygoing conversation ahead of time. But you mentioned, and I can't let this pass, you mentioned you moved to Los Angeles to become an actor. So you are not acting right now.
I'm not acting. Well, I mean, there's so few actors in LA. I figured I'd fill a niche, and I'd moved here. They had a need for them. But no, that is why I moved here. Obviously, the level of skill is proven by the fact that I now sell sheet metal in manufacturing. So
How does one go from that profession into, I see, chief revenue officer? I'm not sure I've seen chief revenue officer before, the CRO, but tell me how you found Bay City Metals products.
when I lived in the Bay Area, I worked for a general contractor. When I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I moved to LA to pursue acting. But when I got here, I needed money because I had some experience.
Imagine that.
I know, shocker. So I was working for a roofing and waterproofing contractor. So I kind of stayed in the construction business, worked for him for a number of years, took some other jobs, working for an OEM that sold into actually agricultural business as a VP of sales. So I kind of this upward progression in the career path. Went back working for the other contractor as his GM. And then Bay City's Metal, we actually used to buy from through our distributors, was looking for, basically they were expanding their management team. The company's been around since 1958. It's still privately held, family owned, but it was kind of left alone. The owner at that point was in his late 90s. He hadn't been on site for a long time. The head of sales lived in Lake Havasu. The head of purchasing lived in Alaska. So it was this really great
Wow.
company. I always liken it to a top. Somebody built a phenomenal top and spun it, but nobody was really keeping an eye on it. It was starting to wobble. And luckily, the daughter of the owner, he's now deceased. I think he was 103. Great run, great life. Started looking at the company, said, what do we do to keep the legacy going for my father, for my family? So they started hiring new managements. They needed somebody in a VP of sales role. I came from the roofing side. Most of what we sell is to roofing distribution. So I had the user knowledge, the end product knowledge. And so I was hired in that role. And then over time, I became the CRO, which admittedly is more of a kind of like a tech company title typically.
Okay.
But our new CEO has been here 3 years. He came from tech, and it's kind of what I was already doing. So revenue, you oversee obviously revenue, that's sales, that's marketing, that's rev ops, that's customer success, customer service. So it's not just focused on day to day. It's also vision, strategy, growth, and all those concepts kind of rolled up into one. So that's what I was doing. He said this title really fits well with what you've been already doing for the company. And I've
Well,
been in that role about 2 years.
that's great. I'm going to kind of pivot over to when you said the CEO's got a tech background from the standpoint of what Bay City Metal Products produces. How is tech involved with it? I mean, beyond sort of the obvious manufacturing thereof.
Well, it's actually, I know, like I was looking at some of the questions you had, and one of the
Mhm.
things you're talking about is, what's happening in the industry. Obviously, everything is moving towards more tech focused business practices. Um, AI everywhere, good, bad, or ugly. So, I mean, his experience is more in just tech. Like he's very good at running and managing companies. So he has that overall CEO ability, but his tech focus is actually really important as far as the timing of where we need to go. Because what you need to do, especially we're a relatively small regional company. We've grown substantially since I've been here, but you have consolidation in the market. So for instance, there's two big national manufacturing companies. One of them just acquired the other. You have Home Depot acquiring SRS. You have QXO acquiring Beacon. You have ABC. Those are the three main players. So you have the distributors are all coming together. You have all the manufacturers. So you have to continue to differentiate yourself, and technology, embedding yourself with the systems of your customers is really key towards that end goal. So that's where having him has been extremely beneficial. And not just his knowledge, his network. We have a guy right now who's been coming in. We're developing a customer portal. So the idea is, the old school guys, we still have a fax machine. You're still going to have the old school guys that need a fax. But
And
the
business
kids,
cards.
and maybe I shouldn't call them kids, the younger generation who are in the branch manager roles, who are in the purchaser roles, they don't even want to pick up the phone. So we're developing a way that you have EDI and you have these other ways that you can integrate yourself where they can just log in, they can go into an app that we're in development, find their sales history, place their orders, get their pricing, and that's quick, it's easy, and it's done. So that not only makes the customer's life easy, which is a main focus we have. We're all about customer success, voice of the customer, all the feedback. That's how we build the company. And then also about just embedding ourselves in a way that we're more closely tied to our distribution network. So we're not falling behind because things are moving very rapidly.
They really are moving very rapidly. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that respectfully uses the word prosaic in a way that identifies what your product line is. When we were getting ready to talk, I was looking up above in my ceiling and I've got a lot of exposed ductwork, et cetera. So when I think about your products, downspouts, gutters, ventilation, et cetera, I think we are doing a disservice to the necessity of that within the context of the built environment. So tell me, I respect it, but I guess I don't see it forefront very much. Tell me more about your product line that gives me the appreciation of what I should not be overlooking.
Yeah. It kind of ties into the bigger picture when I describe what I do it's not sexy. It's sheet metal. Not a lot of kids are excited to get into manufacturing. There's robots, there's AI, there's all these things. However, our products you need them where the house or building is being constructed. I can't outsource it. I can't AI it. I can't 3D print it yet. There's a reason.
Can't DIY it, right?
Yeah, you can't. So it's an essential part of an essential thing that people need. Housing. Everybody needs a house. So most of what we sell is through roofing distribution. We do sell HVAC stuff as well. So ductwork and elbows and things like that. We do stuff for the solar industry. We sell tons and tons of these. They're solid piece, seamless solar flashings. But most of what we do is for roofing. So you look at a roof, you see a sloped, a shingle roof. At the very edge, you have edge metal. We sell that. Wherever you have pipes and penetrations that come up from plumbing or from, other trades, you have to flash that in. So basically flashing is anywhere you have a transition or you have a penetration and it needs extra protection to prevent water from getting into the house or
Okay.
built.
You mentioned Home Depot and others sort of consolidating with manufacturers. Is your customer the big box, or do you go directly to the roofing supply companies and the original specifiers?
The bulk of what we do is through roofing distribution. So there's the big three. We probably have most of the independent roofers, at least in Southern California, growing in Northern California, just long-term relationships. We sell some to some big box that's growing a little bit. Obviously, that's a goal, but it's a very different strategy.
Right.
You're selling into retail. You need stickers on every single piece. That takes more money. They need to be boxed. The window of delivery is narrower. The margins are narrower because it's a more high volume, lower margin game, as opposed to distribution where it's more service is going to be your differentiator against your competitors, because metal is a pain in the butt. You can have edge metal and I can have 400 SKUs just on edge metal because there's
Right.
multiple colors, there's multiple gauges, there's multiple dimensions. So they need somebody who can help service and understand their business and be able to meet those needs, because they change rapidly, because you could have a roofer walk into a branch and wipe them out of something, and now they need it for the next guy. So you have to be able to respond more rapidly. So that's where the bulk of our focus is and what we've done. But yes, we're always looking to expand. We actually just got our first sales order for Utah yesterday. So I'm excited. We're expanding into a new region. So regions, products, channels, everywhere we can, because that's our job. And if you're not growing in business, you're dying.
You are in Northern California, Southern California, and Arizona. I think where do you manufacture in each one of those locations?
We started in Southern California again in the 50s. The company moved to a few different locations. I've been here, 7 years now. When I started, I know, right? It flies.
Time flies when you're bending metal, right?
Right. And surprisingly having a lot of fun. I mean, everybody has days that it's not fun, but for the most part, I have a lot of fun. We work with really good people. It is a great industry. There is a low tolerance for, I don't know if I can curse on this, but there's a low tolerance for
Sure.
assholes, which is nice because some industries there's a higher
Is
tolerance.
that company wide? That's good. That's a good.
That's not just my company. That is our customers, is the just people that are difficult to get along with don't last very long because it's such a relationship based business
Sure.
that people just won't put up with that, which is nice. So when I started, we had one facility here in Gardena, about 100,000 square feet of manufacturing and warehousing space and our corporate offices. Just to go back to listening to the customer, we had a large customer who, when I started, was saying they were going to move away from us because as they grow, they want to have vendors that can service larger areas. Because now you're consolidating there's rebate programs and backends and corporate and all this stuff. So it took us a little bit. We identified a similar company in Northern California and acquired them in, I want to say 2023. So they had a similar footprint manufacturing facility in Manteca, which is about an hour south of Sacramento. So now we have two full manufacturing facilities, opened mostly a warehouse in Phoenix a couple years ago. We've been developing light manufacturing, and we're going to start adding more and more equipment manufacturing to that location. And then we have, full trucks, and we do routes in between all locations. And then some of those will hit like Vegas as it comes back out of Phoenix. Utah, we're just going to do LTL for now until we build up enough of kind of a pattern and then add that to our own truck routes.
Would you say that you do more new construction or is it remodel? I would think that both of those would be a continued success for you because if you're not building something new, you're remodeling.
Yeah, it's both. Most of what we sell is residential, mostly for sloped roof, not as much commercial. We've been looking at developing more commercial products, but yeah, the bulk is new construction. The economy is a little slower right now, but one thing, good or bad, depending how you look at it, in California, we are massively underhoused. There's still a need for, I don't know the number, but 800,000 units, if not more.
Wow.
So there's always that need. There's always the big home builders are, doing these developments, putting out these new houses, these new residential areas. So that always maintains the growth here. And then it doesn't rain often, but when it does, it's a lot. And we got a lot of rain here a month ago. And sure enough, like clockwork, a few weeks later, we see this uptick in sales because it was like, oh, that's right. The leak I forgot
We're
about.
leaking.
I should get that fixed. So,
Well, tell me a little bit more in regards to your 20 years in construction and manufacturing.
wow. I can't complain. If we're talking about life in general, like I said, I'm in a good industry. It's not for everybody. I live in Southern California. I'm from Washington, D.C. I've lived in St. Louis. I lived in Oregon. I lived in San Francisco. I love L.A. We're very happy here. It's a beautiful place to live. Again, I'm in an industry that I really enjoy. I work with really good people. There's a lot of opportunity. And it's been interesting to see. When I lived in the Bay Area, I worked for a contractor, and I got to see, you kind of see there's these valleys and peaks that you always have in any industry. In construction, especially, 2007, everything slowed down. So you kind of look back and see like, what was the impact on my job in the industry at that time? How did we deal with it? How did you pivot? And I think a lot of it is just, no matter what you're doing, is you take all these lessons, the good, the bad, the ugly, and as long as you're kind of aware and trying to apply them to the next job or to the next problem, that's where success comes from. Like, honestly, my job is really just solving problems, sometimes small and annoying, sometimes large scale and long term, but that's what I find to be fun. And that's, even though I'm not acting it, like, you can still be very creative in business. And that's where I
Right.
think I get a lot of meaning from and a lot of fulfillment and joy.
Well, I'm going to land on that for just a little bit longer. I appreciate that sentiment. I think when I went to school in Arizona and have a degree in graphic design, I never thought at that time that I would be doing work for manufacturers of roofing mastic, labels for that, or brochures for concrete pavers. I've since realized that I can find as much joy in doing that, because from a design standpoint, we're trying to not only appeal to somebody who might specify the product, but we are solving a problem of communication. So for you to say that on one hand, people might not necessarily think every day about your product line. The fact that you're solving problems on a regular basis in an industry that you might not have realized has a lot of value and a lot of joy. So that's a long-winded way of saying I love hearing you say that.
I love being able to say it because I've certainly had jobs that I did not enjoy quite so much.
Well, as I end this conversation, I promise that we be relatively quick for a number of reasons, respectful of the time. What should I have asked you as we close this conversation?
Well, we covered baseball separately, so we could have left that off. I think this was great. Like this, I really appreciate you inviting me on. I've done one of these. I know this is, a newer facet of marketing. There's some companies I follow that are similar to ours in other regions, and I see that they do podcasts and things, and that's something like we're kind of kicking around here possibly. But no, I enjoyed the conversation, and it was nice. It went ways I didn't necessarily think it would go, but no, I think we covered, at least as far as the job, not the fun part of life. I think we covered it pretty well. So I appreciate that.
Well, I thank you for your time, and I wish you nothing but success as you continue moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate it, David.
The Foundation is produced by Studio Conover and edited by Brett Euler. Studio Conover is a strategic marketing design firm for manufacturers of building products. Visit studioconover.com for more information.